If you're an entrepreneur, you can't believe everything just by scanning headlines. Drop into the data. If you don't go in fully prepared and you're not really an expert of your space, you're going to trip and fall. How do you get the entrepreneur to that next point and bring back a well thought out plan? Know how the policy impacts are going to impact your plan and separate yourself from the emotion of the candidates. My legacy is knowing I left people better than I found them, is not that there's a statue of me somewhere. I don't want a statue. I want the satisfaction of knowing that I did what I said I was going to do, and it worked out really well for the people that I was on the ride with.
Welcome to the Free Factor Podcast. I am your host, Scott DeVore, aka Free. I am here in Valuetainment 5990 live with none other than Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Now, we did an independent poll in anticipation of this interview, and what the people want to know is, what are your true feelings about Adam Sosnick?
My true feelings about Adam? You know what? I respect Adam because he has allowed his position to evolve over time based on facts and new truths as he realizes them. And I respect that about him. Now, what you see on the podcast, do we get frustrated with each other if I'm too long-winded or he's too long-winded? It's like, Adam today on the podcast. I thought Vinny was going to pick up his phone and look to Google Maps and say, Adam, I'm on Google Maps. I'm still trying to find your point, So there's a little of that back and forth that we have. But, without Adam pushing from perspectives or from different angles, then you don't have a way to push against it and to kind of refine the message so that the viewers can see analysis in there. So how do I really feel about him? I'm impressed that over time his opinion has evolved. And I think also what people don't see, the guy has got really good insights and how-tos on personal money management. And so we're not walking out of there, pardon the expression, flipping each other off or anything like that. But the tension you see is very real. We don't script it. We don't fake it. But I think there's, at least from my side, I know from my side, there's respect after the fact.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the banter between you guys. And I feel like you're just this most unassumingly funny guy, and just listening to it cracks me up every time. Every time I hear you guys go back and forth. But I want to give you a proper introduction before we really get into the questions. Like I said, I really appreciate the opportunity being here. But so, seasoned entrepreneur, strategic advisor, business executive with a track record of scaling businesses and having led to multiple exits. Right-hand man, strategic advisor behind PBD here at Valuetainment for the past 15 years, which you guys have done. You built this global media powerhouse, phenomenal things going on. You're also married, 22-year anniversary, I believe I just saw.
Yeah.
Two daughters. One just went into college.
Yeah, actually this weekend, her dad will show a little emotion. Going to drop her off at Rice.
Awesome. So I'm actually married. I just celebrated my 20 years this year. And I have two daughters.
Wow.
I took my oldest to her first college visit this summer. So we got, and I used to live in LA. So
where'd you go?
I went to SCAD, Savannah College of Arts and Design. Yeah, she's a theater girl.
Good.
Yeah. In
Check out Biola if you're from Southern California.
Oh yeah. But I know a lot of people who went to Biola. But like I said, we got a lot in common. You remind me of a lot of people. So I worked for a healthcare company that used to be headquartered in LA. Then they moved to Denver. But like all the people I used to work with, you remind me, you're like cut from the same cloth. I know you're Canadian, right?
Well, my dad's father's side get to the great-great-grandparents, and they were the ones that emigrated. So that side of me, there's a Canadian line. But you know what? It's like the difference between the Canadians and the Pilgrims is nothing. They all came from Wales and what we now know as the UK. Some people got here kind of hung to the left, went through Canada. Some people hung a right and got down to Massachusetts. But we all are Northern Europeans at the end of the day. But yeah, my dad's side, on my dad's father's side, grandfather on that side, Canadians.
Awesome. So outside of this introduction, what should people know about Tom?
I'm very analytical, but you probably know that. And what people may not know about me is just how hard I work just to find the truth in facts. I don't just read headlines. I really try to go in and get the numbers behind the numbers, because it's always served me well to find the deeper numbers to ensure that my position is correct. And so I think that what they know about me is I'm a real research geek when I really want to go discover something. But I like to have fun. I think that part, is obvious. But I deeply care about people ahead of numbers when it comes down to business decisions. Numbers may direct you toward a direction to make a decision, but then I really care about how it impacts the people and what you do for the company. And even when you have to lay off people, how do you do that with great respect and good care?
Awesome. So I'm glad we got to sit down. I was a little nervous because we are trying to book this going back a couple months, and so much has changed. Like we had Trump was like leading, he was going to just crush Biden. Then, there was the assassination attempt. Then Biden drops out. Then Kamala becomes the front runner. I was thinking some world event's going to happen, and valuetainment, all you guys are going to be deployed somewhere, and we weren't going to be able to keep this meeting. But I'm glad we're here sitting down.
Yeah, and I think Biden didn't exactly drop out. Trump was literally shot, and Biden was almost shot. But they did it with gunpoint with Biden behind closed doors, and Trump was giving a speech. But I think both men were facing, metaphorical or otherwise, were facing the gun.
Well put. So strangely enough, I'm surprised Kamala is gaining so much. She's really kind of getting this momentum. So what advice would you give to entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders today, in preparation for what's going to happen as we really get into the thick of election season now, to the election results? What kind of mindset should they have right now?
That's a really good point. And let me give you kind of a broad answer and kind of take you on a little journey. Right now, the polling in the United States, about 70% of the polls have become increasingly politicized. They poll to a narrative. I've seen polls that had a natural bias, meaning of the people how they were registered to vote, where they wanted to be, like plus 11 Democrat, so that the poll is not neutral. It's actually tilted plus 11 Democrat, but you can normalize for that when you get the result. But then Kamala shows up 2 points ahead of Trump. Well, if it's plus 11 Democrat and she's only shown up plus 2, then if you normalized out of that, you would say, wow, maybe Trump's still holding 1.5 points, 2 points in the nation. And whenever you see headlines like that, you always got to go behind it. And there's a lot of these pollsters out there that are very political. I challenge people this: go take a look at how many polls are newly released each day and keep track of that. Right now, we have a lull over the last 4 days, and the number of polls released has dropped down. You want to know why? Because the polls are showing that the Kamala bounce is subsiding, and so it's wearing off. And yet that's not the narrative we want, that, our new girl is doing fantastic. So regardless of what side you're on, whether you're, liberal, conservative, regardless, what I just said is factual. The number of polls released is dropping, and there's not new polls that are supporting what you might call the mainstream media narrative. Why is that important for entrepreneurs? Number one, if you're an entrepreneur, you can't believe everything just by scanning headlines. Drop into the data. If your salespeople were bringing you a sales report that says you're down 5%, you'd be like, here, come here. Sit down with me. Can you show me how each of our 5 sales guys are doing? Can you tell me what they've closed recently? And you as the CEO would dive into the data. You want answers, wouldn't you? Sure. Well, why don't we do that with the polling? First of all, so there's my first lesson for entrepreneurs. Don't just read the headlines. You wouldn't trust a text message from your head of sales to be the full answer. Don't trust headlines. Point 2, know how the policy impacts are going to impact your plan, and separate yourself from the emotion of the candidates. For instance, take a look at where the Senate and Congress is going to be. There's probably not going to be a sweeping overhaul of tax, because it looks like Republicans are going to gain 4 seats in the Senate. So if Kamala Harris was elected and she wants to expire the Trump tax cuts, go with other things, and put her own program in place, new taxation might not get through the Senate. So there's things that have to happen there. So know how it is going to be, and know how it's going to impact you. For instance, looks like we're going to get about a 1/4 point benefit in interest rates in September coming up in a few weeks. Well, if we do, that means refis are going to go up for residential mortgages. And maybe it means that if you're in an area where you're able to get a new commercial building or a business loan for equipment for your factory, maybe that means that the cost of that equipment in terms of the interest and the payment is going to come down a little bit. So get past, point two, get past the emotions of the candidates and get into the rational policy outcomes and prepare yourself from it. Otherwise, you're going to worry up here about the candidates and you're not going to see, well, even if my candidate or my pick doesn't win, what is that playing field going to look like and how should I prepare myself? Because I can't just fall down on the ground, kick and scream and cry like a little baby and say, my guy didn't win. We all will be disappointed if our person doesn't win. However, we can be prepared for both outcomes by looking in advance, and it may dictate what you do between November and the end of the year when taxes are due before the new president is inaugurated and puts their own plan in place.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I think there was a stat that said it doesn't really matter the outcome if it's a Democrat or Republican president in the state of Florida. Real estate actually appreciates like 7%. So it was a weird stat that we just kind of discovered the other day. But where did you build this analytical muscle? Because I'm very analytical too. Like my first job out of college, I worked for Bechtel. I was a cost engineer. And I had a business management degree. They put me on this $1 billion construction project. And I was basically, making sure we were maintaining budgets and, forecasting our estimate to complete our EACs. And over a 15-year career, I just really developed just these high-level analytical skills where if someone gave me like a summary report, it was great information, but I wanted the whole database. Like, give me the data so then I can like do my own pivot tables and just go in there and look for trends myself. I'm assuming you're kind of the same way. Where did you develop, like, where did that come from?
Well, my undergrad was Cal State Northridge in Northridge, California. I came from a middle-class upbringing, and that was a school I could afford. But it was a really good public school in California. This is back in the 80s. And one of the things that I liked about it was the business administration degree was a balanced curriculum. It was like a baby MBA. But then the marketing courses had consumer behavior, consumer research, and they weren't like on PR, marketing communications, advertising messages. There was a unit in one of my classes like that, but I never took a class that was all that. And so there was a lot in there on the market research side. We did a market research study. We actually took surveys on campus. We actually looked at the results of the surveys. I said, that was pretty cool. And we were challenged to see if you could do something on campus with it. And so we went to the University Credit Union because we heard they wanted to do a survey. So we did a survey for them about what services did students want on campus and should they invest in another ATM, back when ATMs were humongous and cost a lot more money to put at the student union. So we went through that. And that whole program kind of guided me to analytical decision-making based on research. And I guess it worked with my personality and my proclivities. And when I came out, I was taking that approach to any job I had. What are the numbers saying? And by the way, you'll hear me say on the political polling show that we do once a week for valuetainment, you'll hear me say on that, words talk, numbers scream.
I'm Scott DeVore with DeVore Capital. We are a multi-service construction, real estate, and development company. We do services from ground-up development to roofing services to real estate transactions. Reach out to us at 844-4-DEVORE or at the website link below. Yes, sir. So outside of the PBD podcast, where you're like one of my favorites on there, you got your own Biz Doc podcast where you go through case studies, but your tagline is, I hope to leave you better than I found you. Mm-hmm. What's the genesis of that tagline?
I was trying to find, back when I did my first case study, and Patrick said, hey, why don't you do case studies? You've shared with me you do case studies when you teach. I was an adjunct professor at Biola, guest lecturer at Pepperdine. I've done guest lectures at Anderson, believe it or not, in LA. And I wanted to I was searching for, do I just say thank you? Do I just say thank you, good night, like walk off stage, I sat there and I said, wait a minute, what's my goal? Well, my goal is to leave them with something. And I said, well, I hope I leave them something better than they showed up with. And then I was thinking, I said, leave them, but I hope I left you better than I found you. And it came from my desire. One of my core superpowers is to be able to teach or simplify. One of my favorite people in the Bet David Consulting sales team calls me the master simplifier. And I thought that was just a great compliment, because it's actually what I try to do. Why don't you make the simple or the new or the complex even more simple so that they can apply it and remember it? And so as I think through that, and I said, wow, I hope I left you better than I found you, which also goes to my desire in teaching, which also comes from my faith. I have a close relationship with a Jewish carpenter that turned 12 simple guys into his core team and changed the world. And so when I say, I hope I left you better than I found you, it's also a challenge back to myself to live out my faith by serving others and delivering for them.
Awesome. Think back early in your career. When you were kind of coming up, did you have any insecurities that you felt like being in a room with somebody who had massive success that you were either, mentoring, or you're part of a team that was giving like strategic advice to? And if so, how did you overcome those?
So I think we all in our life have, our own insecurities. My first job out of school was in sales with a division, of IBM. And actually they had sold that division to another company, but it was IBM sales, basically. My internship was with IBM. I get this job. IBM kind of sold the division to another company, but it was all IBM, sales. And they taught you to be poised, be polite, don't be too impressed, and be respectful. And don't let them look at you as a 24-year-old kid. Let them look at you as an IBM sales representative who is on the ball and there. And I had, fake it till you make it, maybe a little bit. But I would say overall, it was something that I had to learn, because early on in my career, I was kind of intimidated. I was maybe too impressed with their success. How can I say that I was anything other than normal? But what did I do with it? And where did I put those feelings to just say, hi, my name is Tom Ellsworth. I'm with IBM. You're expecting me? And walk in with confidence and saying, I'm with IBM. I assume you're expecting me. And that little piece there, I assume you're expecting me, is not cocky, but look how it puts you in the feeling of you're valuable and you're going into a meeting. Not only was it a valuable way to train your reps to talk to a client, it's also a great way to teach your reps to feel positive about themselves and their value to the conversation they're about to have.
That's great advice. That confidence you had, that really paid off for where you are. But think of like maybe a failure that you've had early on. Does anything come to mind where, man, the outcome wasn't what I was expecting. I wasn't able to be successful in this instance, but you learned from it. You were able to pivot, and then from there, took you in a direction that you didn't see coming.
Yep. So I had, one of my odd college jobs is I did motorsports photography, PR. Didn't always get paid for it. Part of it I did as passion. Once or twice I did get paid for it. But what was interesting about it, I had all these amazing photographs. I learned from the super professionals. I had a great library of work. And my daughter, really likes a couple of them, and they're on the wall of her room. And it's like racing pictures. And, people say, what's that? I said, my dad did that. And this is before Photoshop, where you either got the picture right or you didn't. So it's just wonderful. And I took all these pictures and I said, what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a publishing company. I'm going to sell these pictures. So I took all these pictures, I made a catalog, I put an ad in motorsports magazines. I started getting all these letters in there and people wanted the catalog. They would pay me $5 for the catalog and then buy the pictures from me. This was great, right up until the moment that I got a letter from the owner and the license holder of IndyCar racing and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that said they were pissed and disappointed that I was basically making money off their copyright. And far as they could tell, I didn't have a licensing agreement like some of the motorsports magazines. And so I did what any good entrepreneur would do. I folded the letter and I stuck it there in my desk and I waited then to write a second time, this time from a lawyer that said cease and desist. So I'm like, I learned an important lesson there, clear all your copyrights. But it also showed me something else, that if you don't go in fully prepared and you're not really an expert of your space, really an expert of your space, you're going to trip and fall. I also had a digital publishing company that I completely did not really understand, Amazon's ability to exert market power. And so they kind of picked winners with a lot of publishers. And so that one did okay. Product market fit, traction, got off the ground, did some really good work with it, but it didn't fly high like I wanted it to. And at the end of the day, I sold the book list and everything to another publisher. But that also told me that, knowing distribution and the market power of that distribution is critical. So both of them, I have lessons that I still carry with me today.
That's awesome. It reminds me of a business I started like 15 years ago. It was about 2009, 10. I was getting into like online. I wanted to do an online magazine. And I thought I had the perfect niche. It was celebrity entrepreneur. And I didn't know that Entrepreneur Magazine had the trademark on the word entrepreneur. Like a lot of people don't understand it. It's only trademark when it comes to media. So I'm gaining some momentum. I'm paying bloggers. We're putting out this digital blog. It's Celebrity Entrepreneur Magazine. And sure enough, I got a letter from Entrepreneur Media saying you're infringing on our trademark. You need to stop using us. And I ignored it. I did what you did. I set it down to the side, and I had a business partner.
If it's really important, they'll write back, won't they?
And my business partner who helped me launch it, he got really freaked out. He's like, man, he was afraid of getting sued. I'm like, man, they probably send this out. Probably doesn't mean anything. And sure enough, a second letter came, and we didn't want to fight it because how can we take on this juggernaut, Entrepreneur Media?
Just remember the first rule of lawsuits.
What's that?
You can take nothing from a man that has nothing.
That's very true. Yeah.
So if your business has very, very little, then they can sue you and they can make your life miserable for a second, but you can always just say, sorry, okay, we'll stop.
Yeah, and that was pretty much me at the time. So we rebranded and we came up with a play on celebrity entrepreneur, and we called it Entre Celeb. Did not have it was not as catchy or anything like that, but I got the name Celebrity Entrepreneur from the first season of The Apprentice. The first winner of it was Bill Rancic, and he it was like I don't watch TV, but my wife must have had like one of those like Hollywood Reporter TV shows on in the background, and they introduced the guy, celebrity entrepreneur Bill Rancic, the winner of The Apprentice. And when I heard celebrity entrepreneur used together, I'm like, man, I never heard those two nouns kind of put together. And so I kind of went with it, and I did it for about 3 years. But then as soon as we kind of got some momentum, Entrepreneur Magazine recognized it, sent us a letter, and we basically had to stop the whole operation.
So they even doing it that way?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But 14 years ago, moved on from it.
That one you could have fought.
Yeah. But let me ask you this. So I love everything that you guys do at Valuetainment. I'm a big consumer of everything. I go to all the events, going to the vault for the second time.
You're coming to the vault?
Yes, sir.
It's fantastic. September 4th to 7th this year, Palm Beach Convention Center just keeps getting bigger, and Pat has to find new places, to do it. And we got great people coming this year.
Got The Rock, Nick Saban.
Well, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, going to talk about his journey, entrepreneur journey, building a tequila company. You could be incredibly famous and have a lot of money, but you still got to go through the same entrepreneur journey, and you got to get it right. And there's a couple other people who are going to be there. It's really great. Nick Saban, coach, will be talking about leadership. And Will Guidara, who wrote a great book on reasonable hospitality. And, built a restaurant to be #1 on the Michelin list. It's just freaking crazy.
Phenomenal book. Yeah. So many of my team who went last year, they thought Will was like, unexpectedly good. Like, because not many people were aware of him. And now we read his book all the time. We're always recommended. And you, obviously, you are a speaker.
I'm going to be talking about fundraising. I'm going to be talking about getting ready to sell. I'm going to talk about early stages, and to go along with a whole boatload, 300-page book you get if you come, and you can go through all that with all the curriculum that Pat and others are going to be teaching. Really amazing. If you're looking for a motivational speaker, that's not us. If you're looking for, firewalking, that's not us. If you're looking to make your business bigger and join us and with our conferences and curriculum over the next chapters of your business, guess what? That's us, and we're going to help you go big.
It's the place to be. Actionable steps to actually start doing day one, and you'll get results.
I am Will with DCRE, DeVore Capital Real Estate. We want to help you with your buying and selling real estate transactions. We know in the economy and the market that we have today, everybody is telling you that it is impossible to buy or to sell. We know that we can get the deal done. Give us a call at 844-4DeVore or hit the link below. Have a great day.
So I got a question for you. You could take it one or you can take it either way. So my question is, like, I think about all the success of PBD, and you're his right-hand man. You've been with him, for the past decade and a half on this ride. So my question is, who was the Biz Doc to you early in your success to get you to your level? Or maybe talk about a mentor who really shaped kind of your leadership, your strategic direction.
Wow. So a mentor that really kind of shaped me. Well, you know what? There was a couple of them. There was a CFO who became CEO of a company, and he left one company, went to another company, and invited me to come work for him, which I did. And he told me one day, Tom, you can't just do things by sheer guile and determination. At some point in time, you have to work through a team and get someone on your team that can do this so that you can put now your more experienced mind to good use. I'm almost quoting that word for word. And that was a huge moment for me. Another one was a sales VP that became a region VP inside of Sprint, who basically said to me, you need to accelerate your development because you're capable of it and you're working at the wrong level. You should be working at a different level. And 2 years later, I was running the corporate venture capital group. It was an incubator in corporate venture capital for Sprint. And that led to a lot of really interesting things. So I was blessed to have those, those mentors, and I call those situational mentors. I didn't have like an uncle or a friend of the family or like a life mentor like that, but it was these two individuals that, gave me some really strong feedback, and it was almost like career direction coaching, about how to feed more gas to the engine and go.
Awesome. I want to ask you a question as senior chief strategy officer to PBD, Lions Holding, 9 companies, I believe, underneath that holding company. So what is like your process for guiding him through major decisions to ensure that the execution aligns with his vision and both the short-term and long-term goals of the company?
That's a really great question. So let's approach it this way. That way people can hear my interpretation of the question and my answer. How do I work with an entrepreneur who has his vision established, the product established, his ultimate goal for achievement and his timeline, his calendar, all established, and is engaged and is insanely good at least one function? And what I mean by that, it could be business development, it could be sales, it could be product if the founder is more of a CTO, depending on who you're working for. As long as you have that, in other words, you have a founder that knows where he's going, has set the North Star, knows when he wants to get there, and is challenging the team. As long as you have that, now you can feed under that and understand, how do I make that happen? That's what you think. You don't think about where are we going. Okay, how do I make that happen? How do I make that happen? How do I make this happen? When it was time to sell, not really what time to sell, when the knocks at the door became too loud at PHP, and there were large industry integrators that were seeking an audience with Pat and loved what he's built. I looked at it and I said, Pat, you know what? We need a strong management team for this next chapter. And so what if I could do this, 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 and this? Do you see how that would help position the company so you could focus on strategic elements and next level? He's like, you know what? Do it. Let's do it. And so then I go process it with him. So you know those things about a strong entrepreneur. Pat happened to be business development. He understood product and he knew the product he wanted to sell from insurance, but he didn't have to invent it. But everything else he had, playbook, office operations, commission structure, motivation, promotions, how that would happen. So he had all of that and highly focused, knew where he wanted to go. So now it's, how do we get you there? And so now it's like, Pat, let's process this. I think if we do it like this, we could put an executive team in place that's going to help you cover these bases and give you the jet fuel to go from here to here, which is what you want because you want to move faster. And if you want to answer one of the knocks at the door, now you've got, okay, come on in. This is my team. And it's very bankable and you're ready to, be part of an acquisition if you so choose on your own terms. So it's all about how do you get the entrepreneur to that next point and bring back a well thought out plan that you have put on and you've looked for the holes in your argument and look for the gaps and then bring back saying, here's what I think. I've thought this over. What do you think? I think it would fit for you. What do you think? And then he looks at it and he says, I like it, but do a little of this of that, a little more of this, a little less of that, but okay, go. And then do it and get it done when you say you're going to do it. And make sure they only have to ask you once.
That's awesome. That's the Biz Doc right there. Tom, last question for you. When you think of the long-term impact of your success, what do you want your legacy to be remembered as?
Well, my legacy just needs to be, I left people better than I found them, who were therefore able to do more for their company and all the people that are in those companies. And my legacy, you won't know it's my legacy. I will know, and I will have personal satisfaction knowing, boy, that person went off and started their own company. So they got 50 people, about 150 people related to those people. Those paychecks are helping 200 people. I helped 200 people get jobs and careers, and they're loving over there because a little part of what I did is I really helped that entrepreneur. My legacy is knowing I left people better than I found them, is not that there's a statue of me somewhere. As a matter of fact, I don't want a gold brick. I don't want a statue. I want the satisfaction of knowing that I did what I said I was going to do, and it worked out really well for the people that I was on the ride with.
Awesome. Great advice. Tom, I thank you for your time. I got a gift for you.
Oh, gosh.
Just a little something, not much. But this is just an appreciation. Everything that you do for me, just part of the masterminds that I'm on.
You want me to open it? Or?
Yeah, go ahead and open it.
Okay.
You've helped me out with such strategic pinpoint advice that has saved me years in the making.
I haven't read this yet.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow the Diary of the CEO, Stephen Bartlett. It's a great podcast. Not as good as, PBD podcast or the Biz Doc podcast.
Well, there's a lot of voices out there. We're one of many voices, but it's our aspiration to be the best. And so that doesn't cancel the other ones. It means we want to be the best and I want to see a lot of people out there with a lot of perspectives. I want them to challenge us. I want to leave people better than we found them. But we want to be the best voice. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. There you have it. Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc here at Valuetainment 5990 Live. This is the Free Factor Podcast. Scott DeVore. Peace out.
Real interviews, real guests, no actors. Real talk, get prepared for Free Factor.